In the morning 3 of the milkwoman's regular customers were not at home when she called to deliver the milk. It was too late for her to go to the market, so, lifting her milk can onto her shoulder, she set out on a round of the houses. She trudged from door to door without success until she finally stopped to rest near Timur's house. She heard a deep, pleasant voice singing in the yard. That meant the owners were in and she might have some luck there. As she came through the gate, the old woman sang out, "Milk, anyone want milk here?" "2 measures," replied a bass voice. Lowering her can to the ground, the milkwoman turned around. And saw a grizzled and tattered old man come limping out from behind the bushes brandishing a saber. "I was saying, did you want any milk, sir?" the milkwoman asked, backing away in alarm. "Goodness me, how rough you look." "What do you use that saber for, to cut the grass?" "2 measures." "You'll find a jug on the table," the old man answered shortly and stuck the point of his saber into the ground. "You ought to buy a scythe, sir." The milkwoman continued, hastily pouring the milk into the jug and glancing warily at the old man. "And throw that saber away." "You might scare a simple body to death with a saber like that." "How much?" the old man asked, thrusting his hand into the pocket of his baggy trousers. "The usual price," replied the milkwoman. "2.80 a litre." "I don't overcharge." The old man rummaged about in his pocket and produced a large, battered revolver. "Oi, you can pay later," the milkwoman babbled, snatching up her can and making off. "Don't trouble yourself, dearie," she went on, almost running now and glancing back over her shoulder. "I can wait for the money." She hurried through the gate, slammed it shut and shouted out angrily from the lane. "You ought to be put away, you old devil, and not left to run about loose." "Yes, yes." "Under lock and key is where you belong." The old man shrugged his shoulders, stuffed the 3-ruble note which he had been holding ready back into his pocket. And quickly hid the revolver behind his back. for Dr. Kolokolshikov, the elderly gentleman, was coming into the garden. The doctor was stalking down the gravel walk with a serious and concentrated mien, leaning on his stick. When he caught sight of the eccentric old man, he coughed, adjusted his spectacles and inquired, "Can you tell me where I can find the owner of this house, my good man?" "I live in this house," the old man replied. "In that case," said the elderly gentleman, tipping his straw hat, "perhaps you can tell me whether a certain young lad, one Timur, is a relative of yours." "He is. That certain young lad happens to be my nephew." "It pains me very much indeed to tell you this," began the elderly gentleman. Clearing his throat and looking askance at the saber which was still sticking out of the ground where its owner had left it. "But yesterday morning your nephew attempted to rob our house." "What? My Timur tried to rob your house?" "Yes, just imagine," continued the elderly gentleman, trying to see what it was the old man was hiding behind his back. And beginning to get worked up. "He tried to steal my flannel blanket while I was asleep." "Who?" "Timur." "Stole your flannel blanket?" The old man was quite at a loss. The hand holding the revolver involuntarily fell to his side. The elderly gentleman was now visibly alarmed. Backing toward the gate with as much dignity as he could muster, he began to speak soothingly. "Of course, I wouldn't swear to it, but still the facts the facts." "My dear sir." "I beg you please do not come any closer." "Naturally I have no idea why, but your appearance, your strange behavior." "Look here," declared the old man, advancing on the doctor. "There must be some misunderstanding." "My dear sir," cried the elderly gentleman, staring hypnotized at the revolver and continuing to retreat. "This conversation of ours is taking a most undesirable and, I might say, considering our age, a most undignified course." He stepped quickly through the gate and hurried away, repeating, "No, no, a most undesirable course, most undignified." The old man reached the gate just as Olga, on her way to have a swim in the river, came level with the agitated gentleman. Suddenly the old man began waving his arms and calling to Olga to stop. At this the elderly gentleman leaped over a ditch with the agility of a goat, seized Olga's hand and, in a twinkling, the two disappeared around the corner. The old man burst out laughing. Obviously elated and thoroughly pleased with himself, he went stumping off on his wooden leg singing. But you'll never understand flying fast above the land, how long and slow the waiting for your plane. Ah. Then he unfastened the strap at his knee, flung the wooden leg into the grass and, tearing off his wig and beard, ran into the house. "10 minutes later the young and cheerful engineer George Garaev ran down the steps. Wheeled his motorcycle out of the barn, called the dog Rita and set her to guard the house. Pressed the starter, swung into the saddle and sped off to the river in search of the frightened Olga. At 11 a.m. Gika and Nick set out for the reply to the ultimatum. "Walk straight," Gika growled at Nick. "You ought to walk with a light and firm step." "But you go hopping along like a chicken trying to catch a worm." "Your get-up's fine, pants, shirt and everything, but you still look like nothing on earth." "Don't go and take offense. I'm talking sense to you." "Now why do you have to lick your lips as you go along?" "Stick your tongue back in your mouth and keep it where it belongs." "And what are you doing here?" Gika asked Sima Simerkov, who had just popped up in their path. "Timur sent me to act as liaison," Simerkov rattled off. "It's okay even if you don't know what it's all about." "You've got your assignment and I've got mine." "Nick, let me blow your bugle just once." "Boy, aren't you looking important today?" "Gika, you nut." "You might have put a pair of boots or shoes on when you're on a mission." "Ever see a barefoot ambassador?" "Well, so long you go that way and I go this way." "Be seeing you." "What a rattle-pate." Gika shook his head. "Shoots of 100 words where forward do." "Sound your bugle, herald, here's the fence."